But the state of fear it has been exploited. The chicken little, the sky is falling, and so on. And the other thing that's been exploited, and that's what we're talking about here, is the people's lack of understanding and knowledge. Only 20% of the population are comfortable with science. You can see this in it. I used to laugh at the students about it. I said 80% of you will avoid lab courses like the plague. 20% of you are comfortable in lab courses. And where we see that in the society is I have yet to meet a journalist who knows anything about science, let alone climate science. And of course, that means that they don't understand when you tell them. And if they're looking at the science, is looking for sensationalism. And then, of course, what's fed to them at, the world's going to fry and it's the end of the world and all of this stuff, that sells. Now, on the other side, so what I'm saying is then the public generally are receptive. The public are generally healthily skeptical about things. They've heard all the doomsayers before, but they just simply are still afraid, and the politicians are afraid to speak out, because the politicians will say to me, we agree, we know, but it's political suicide right now to suggest that we might even, not care about the environment in any, even a little bit. So we've got that going on.
Politicians have defined the navigational structure of the conversation so that if you navigate certain terrain to verify evidence for something, you're in a political minefield. Yep. And so it's that the construction, the architecture of the focus is already set, and the dialogue is set, and the energetic minefields in the public ethos, the psychological, sociological, emotional ethos is already prepared. And the collective concern fit perfectly into this story that we've been fed and which I bought. I bought that story. It fit a lot of things that made sense to me, and I had zero scientific understanding. I mean, if it weren't for Robert Felix's books, Magnetic Reversals and Evolutionary Leaps, and Not by Fire, but by Ice, and going to IceAgeNow.com to even get a handle on some of it, even getting a handle on some of the truths that are verifiable, pattern, that this is a cycle, that cycles correlate to changes in the sun, changes in the magnetic field, that it has to do with extinctions. Even just this little but big part is a revelation for somebody who knows nothing, who bought the story. Yet, I'm a committed individual. I've been on a mission for 25 years. I've covered subjects with its rainmaking time. I mean, I interviewed Muhammad Yunus of the Grameen Bank before he got the Nobel Prize. America wasn't interested in him. I went all over to satellite networks, to radio and television networks with a 1-hour blockbuster interview with him. Nobody cared, not public broadcasting nor private broadcasting. XM was interested in $500 million going to Howard Stern. Their pipelines were booked. It's like this type of content, which is about true discovery, has to be provisioned for with regard to doing programming. The reality is that this is the story that's selling. I bought it, and millions of other people are buying into it. So I'm delighted that you've all taken your time today on a Sunday when you could have been with your families right now doing many other things and working with me to try to get the public on board with the most important ways that they need to be thinking about this. And the reality is that nobody can afford to be wrong. Nobody can afford to be wrong on this. And I know that Europe can't afford to be wrong, because the first places that are going to go could potentially go into an ice age is Europe. I wouldn't believe anybody if they told me the Queen of England and the monarchy doesn't have grave concerns. I would bet anybody that the people who are watching what's going on with weather know exactly what's going on with the weather. The real people watching the weather put a doomsday seed vault, was it in Antarctica or the North Pole, with 20,000 seeds there. I mean, what's going on? Something's being prepared for. Somebody knows something that's going on, and it's not just ideology or conjecture. Something's shifting. Concurrently, with real knowledge of what's going on, which you've all been sharing, there is a running to seize control over the new industrial complex that its basis is on this carbon trade and tax and footprint. An entire industrial international complex is on the way. And what's happening is that once you buy the seed is off, and then you're running off with the tree of new fortune that are to be made in this new industrial complex. Even a portion of what you're all saying is true. This is sacrilegious to humanity, to all plant life, to animals, to this planet, and to civilization in general. And so I'm stupefied, and I would like this to get to as many people as possible. I'd like to invite you to please put links to this when it's up on the site. It's Rainmaking time. I'd like to invite you back with some other people on the show, astrophysicists, possibly to do a TV piece of this. But I think that as a basic grounding, you have covered it today. You have more than covered it today. Again, if only 20% of what you're saying is true, we're in trouble. And so on behalf of people all over the world, this generation and future generations, I want to invite you all back to It's Rainmaking time and to please link this to your sites. Let as many people know about this as possible. And I really thank you for coming here today. We're not done. We started the conversation, and I'm very honored that you've been here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob Felix, author of Magnetic Reversals and Evolutionary Leaps, Not by Fire, but by Ice. Joe D'Aleo, the founder of icecaps.us, and Dr. Tim Ball, a climatologist, a wonderful climatologist in Canada. I thank you from It's Rainmaking time. God bless you.